In this module, we'll look at how Microsoft Entra PIM reduces risky standing admin access. The goal is straightforward. Grant privilege only when needed, with approval, monitoring, and governance, so identity security is stronger before we configure it hands-on. So far, we've built the core PAM mindset: identify privilege, reduce standing access, monitor use, and prepare for emergencies. We then added the architecture around it: vaults, rotation, sessions, workstations, secrets, and governance. Now we apply those same ideas in Microsoft Entra PIM, where roles, Azure resources, and groups can be managed through just-in-time activation. Microsoft Entra ID is the control plane for identity across Microsoft Cloud services. It is where users, groups, devices, applications, service principals, and admin roles are defined and trusted. When someone signs in, requests access, changes an authentication method, or manages an app, Entra ID is part of the decision. It also connects identity decisions to controls like MFA, conditional access, identity protection, access reviews, and audit logs. PIM builds on that foundation by making privileged access temporary, approval-based, and traceable, rather than permanently assigned. Entra administration works like a chain of authority. A user is assigned a role. That role grants permissions, and those permissions allow specific administrative actions across the tenant. The key point is scope. A global administrator can affect almost everything, while roles like user administrator, security administrator, or application administrator are narrower and tied to specific responsibilities. That is why least privilege matters. You don't grant broad access just because someone needs one task. PIM adds governance on top, so access can be approved, time-bound, activated only when needed, and audited afterwards. Not all Entra roles carry the same blast radius. Global Administrator sits at the top because it can change almost anything across the tenant. Privileged Role Administrator is just as sensitive in a different way because it controls who can receive powerful access, especially through PIIF. Security Administrator affects the controls and visibility used to detect and respond to threats. Other roles may look operational, but they can still have high impact if they touch users, apps, conditional access, authentication methods, Exchange, or SharePoint. Treat these roles as privileged assets, not routine assignments. Privileged access is a combination, not just a role name. First, identify who receives the assignment: a user, a group, or in some cases, a service principal. Next, look at the assignment state. Active access is available immediately, while eligible access must be activated through PIM. Then define the boundary. A role might reach the whole tenant, only an administrative unit, or a specific resource. Risk increases as each dimension gets broader. Global Administrator, active, permanent, and tenant-wide is the highest risk pattern. Least privilege means narrowing who gets access, when they get it, and where it applies. Microsoft Entra PIM changes privileged access from a permanent entitlement into a controlled workflow. Instead of giving an administrator standing access all day, you make the role eligible. When the work requires it, the admin activates the role for a limited time. That activation can be gated by MFA, a business justification, a ticket number, or approval. PIM records what happened, who approved it, and when access ended. The result is less exposure, better audit evidence, and a repeatable governance cycle through alerts, reviews, and recertification. In PIM, eligible and active mean very different things. An eligible assignment is like having permission waiting in reserve. The user does not have the role yet, but can activate it when there is a valid need, often with approval, MFA, justification, or a time limit. An active assignment means the permissions are currently usable. That may be appropriate for a defined operating window, but it carries more risk because privilege is available immediately. The safer pattern is to make users eligible by default, then activate only when needed. Role activation starts with eligibility, not standing access. When a user needs privilege, they choose the role, request a limited duration, and provide a business reason. PIM then enforces the policy for that role, such as MFA, a ticket number, justification, approval, or a shorter time window. Only after those checks pass does the assignment become active. The key control is that access is temporary by design. When the approved window ends, the role expires automatically, leaving an audit trail and reducing the chance of unused privileges lingering. Before privileged access is activated, PIM turns the request into a controlled decision, not a simple button click. MFA confirms the requester can meet strong authentication requirements. Approval adds human validation that the request makes sense. Justification and ticketing capture the business reason, so auditors can see why access was needed. Related policy controls can also account for context, such as location, device, time, and user details. Notifications keep admins, approvers, and security teams aware of activations, assignments, and policy changes. The result is access that is temporary, verified, and accountable. PIM is not only about granting privileged access, it also creates a defensible record of what happened. Each request, approval, activation, role change, denial, and deactivation becomes part of the audit trail. That matters when a security team needs to reconstruct an incident. Who had access, when they had it, who approved it, and why. The same evidence supports compliance reviews and internal audits. Over time, these records can also reveal patterns, such as repeated activations, unused roles, or privileges that should be reduced. Imagine a security engineer needs security administrator access for 2 hours to fix a Defender configuration issue. Without PIM, that role might be assigned permanently, creating standing privilege every day. With PIM, the engineer requests activation, verifies identity, provides a reason or ticket, and receives time-limited access. When the window expires, the role is removed automatically. That supports zero trust, creates a clear audit trail, and reduces the value of a compromised admin account. A simple way to picture PIM is like checking out a privileged key. An admin requests access for a maintenance window, migration, investigation, or short project. Their identity is verified, approval is applied, the role activates only for the allowed time, and then it expires automatically. Teams can move quickly without leaving standing privilege behind. Break glass accounts are different. They are for true emergencies only, kept highly restricted, continuously monitored, and not used for normal operational elevation. PIM is a governance layer for privilege, not just a role activation tool. It can trigger access reviews so privileged assignments and group memberships are periodically revalidated instead of forgotten. It can manage privileged access groups where joining a group may unlock applications, directory roles, or resources. It can also govern Azure RBAC roles like owner, contributor, and user access administrator across subscriptions, resource groups, and individual resources. The model is consistent. Use the same just-in-time access, approval, auditing, and review patterns across identities, groups, and cloud resources, so privilege stays temporary, visible, and justified. To wrap up, PIM turns powerful Microsoft Entra and Azure roles into governed, just-in-time access. You've seen why standing privilege is risky, how eligibility and activation reduce exposure, and how approvals, MFA, audits, alerts, and reviews create accountability. Next, we move from concepts to configuration, starting with eligible role assignments and activation policies.